Hello, hello, hello. Hello and happy Monday, everybody. Hope that your day was well. I'm excited that you are joining me today. We have a lot to discuss. Hello, Daryl. Hello, Bishop Stedman. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hey, Barbara. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. I hope that you had an opportunity to check out the description, the topic tonight. We are discussing the landlord who illegally changed the locks of the rental property because his tenant had not paid rent in 4 months. So we're going to get into this because this will help a lot of landlords as well as a lot of tenants. And so if you are a tenant, if you are a landlord, or if you know someone who is, please, please, please do share this broadcast. I want to give a brief introduction, guys, of who I am. Hey, Gino, thank you so much for tuning in. Hey, Mark. Guys, for those of you who have joined me for the first time, I'm Karissa Spann, the landlord and tenant coach. This is what I do each and every Monday. I share information that will help landlords and tenants in the rental community. Certainly, I want this to be interactive. And so if you have any comments, if you have questions, go ahead and drop it in the comment section, and I promise that I will get to them accordingly. But I want to share this information because this is real time reality that's happening. And a lot of people may get caught up if they are not aware of what the law says that they can or cannot do. So this is applicable for, hey, Janie Levy, thank you so much for tuning in. This information is applicable for landlords as well as tenants. It's not just in any particular jurisdiction area that this information applies to, because there is now this national eviction moratorium that is in place by the CDC, which is the Centers for Disease Control. And so tonight I'm sharing information that can prevent a lot of landlords from going down this rabbit hole. All right, guys, I'm back. Sorry about that. Sorry for the technical difficulties. But we are going to continue to move forward because this information is helpful for a lot of people. And so, again, if you have questions, if you have comments, please go ahead and drop it in the comment chat box because I want to answer any questions that you have. But again, it is important that landlords as well as tenants are knowledgeable. And because of the CDC's eviction moratorium, there is a way that landlords must conduct themselves must conduct their business. And a lot of you know, if you've been following me, you already know my philosophy is this: if you treat it like a business, it will pay you like a business. If you treat it like a hobby, it will indeed pay you like a hobby. So I am hopeful that I can prevent other landlords from, again, going down this rabbit hole or experiencing the nightmare that this one particular landlord has experienced. So, true story. This landlord decided that he was going to go in and change the locks because his tenant had not paid rent in 4 months. Unfortunately, this landlord's action was along the lines of a self eviction because he didn't go through the courts. The judge did not give him permission to change the locks. Landlords cannot do it. And this landlord found out the hard way. So here's the unfortunate part about it, guys, because I realized that because of this pandemic, due to COVID-19, that a lot of tenants are not financially able to pay the rent. It has created a hardship for a lot of landlords. And a lot of people, I believe, don't really understand that some landlords are not rich. They're not Rockefellers. They're not the Trumps of the world. They're just average people waiting for sometimes the rental payments to come in so that they can pay the bills for the rental property. And just because the landlord or because someone owns the property doesn't mean that, they have all the riches in the world. And unfortunately, because of the pandemic, a lot of people are impacted financially, not just tenants, but landlords as well, because some landlords don't have the income that they once were receiving to maintain or to take care of the upkeep of this property. And so in this situation where this tenant has not paid the rent, the landlord just decided that he wanted the tenant to leave. Well, the tenant, she knew that she could not be put out. But she believed that the landlord, for whatever reason, did have a right to come in and change the locks, which is not the case. Landlords cannot change the lock. That is an illegal eviction. Landlords cannot change the locks. You do have to follow what the law says. You do have to follow the guidelines that are temporarily in place to protect tenants. And so here's why this is important, because I believe the CDC has implemented this moratorium. Hey, Broderick, thank you so much for tuning in. I believe that the CDC has created this order for a few reasons. Okay, they want to protect tenants from being evicted. They want to curb the possibility of a widespread of homelessness, and they want to further prevent COVID-19 from spreading. So landlords can't get an eviction because if families or if people are evicted, they have a high chance of possibly acquiring COVID-19 or possibly spreading it. And so certainly we know that COVID-19 is a disease. It's a respiratory disease rather, but it's spread through close contact with one another. And so this is why we are still practicing social distancing, and we're supposed to maintain this 6 feet distance, right? So in this situation, the landlord decided to be crafty and changed the lock so that the tenant could not get back in when she left out. I thought it was intriguing that this landlord would take measures into his own hands to change the locks without going to court because the tenant's belongings were still in the house. He didn't put her things out. He didn't put her things out on the street, but he changed the lock so that she couldn't get back in. That's illegal. And so because of the CDC guidelines right now that are in place, and it does cover all residents, all residential tenants in the United States, all residential tenants, not commercial, all residential tenants in the United States for non-payment of rent. So if tenants are not paying rent, they cannot be evicted. There is protection for them from September the 4th through December 31st of this year. Now, if the CDC decides to extend it that's fine. But as it stands right now, this order just came out September the 4th, 2020. It's in place through the end of this year. So, tenants, here's what let me share this information with you, because I know that I have a lot of people who are watching who are renters. And if you have any questions, if you want to challenge me on this, I'm okay. Drop it in the comment box and let's have some conversation. Let's have a discussion about it. But rent is still due. So when this eviction moratorium is up, rent is still due. Landlords during this time can charge late fees. They can charge penalties. They can charge interest according to that lease agreement. So if it's in the lease that the landlord can charge it, they are allowed to do that right now. Yes, there are stipulations. Thank you, lady. I see that. There are stipulations because they do, first of all, they have to qualify. All right. So this is just, again, for non-payment of rent. Now, if there are any other lease violations. So let's say that, so I'm a landlord, I'm a housing provider, and I have tenants who are in some sort of situation where I can take them to court for legal matters outside of non-payment of rent. So I had a tenant of mine who was arrested for possessing a shotgun on the property. So I'm allowed to take him to court because this is not covered under the CDC's eviction moratorium. And so Very Lady Robinson, she made a comment. She says there are a few stipulations. And so there are essentially, from what I've seen, at least 7 things that the tenant must do to show that they're covered or they're qualified. So they have to show that their income has been impacted due to COVID. They have to demonstrate that if they are considered to be evicted, they have to show that being evicted will cause them to be homeless, right? And so there are some stipulations and there are some things that they must do, so everybody won't automatically qualify. And so one of the things that I would strongly recommend is to visit the CDC's website, cdc.gov. You can look at the requirements. You can look at what the regulation says that they have put in place to protect tenants. And again, this is for tenants throughout the United States. So it doesn't matter if you're in DC, Maryland, Arkansas, North Carolina, Atlanta, Florida, Milwaukee. The United States is covered because of the CDC eviction moratorium. All right. Hey, lady. Hey, Lex, thank you so much for tuning in. Hey, Deborah, thank you so much, beautiful. And so, guys, this is where we are with it, right? So now, because this landlord has took it upon himself to change the locks, he could now be charged up to $200,000, all right, in addition to being jailed. So 2 things can happen, or both. Either he can be fined, he can go to jail, or both. Now that's just for a landlord. Now, if it's a business or an organization, of course, there's a tougher fine, tough penalties, and it's a lot of money, guys, and that's per tenant. So let's say this landlord did this to 5 tenants. That's for each occurrence. So every tenant that he did that to. Now, the situation, here's where it gets tricky. Here, I don't even want to say tricky, but here's where it gets a little interesting, because now, should that landlord evict the tenant and something happens and that tenant dies, the amount of the penalty is almost doubled, just depending on the circumstance or the situation. So please know what the law says you can or cannot do. Knowledge is powerful. Get the information, get the help that you need, know what you can and cannot do in the particular jurisdiction that you're managing or you're renting your property in. All right, so here's another thing. Now, the CDC eviction moratorium, it is in place. However, in jurisdictions where there's already something in existence, so I'll use Washington, D.C., because I do cover that area a lot. So in the District of Columbia, the mayor, Muriel Bowser, they have implemented a state of emergency, which is in effect until October the 9th. Now, when that state of emergency is over, if DC does not extend their order automatically, the residents in the District of Columbia, they will fall under the CDC guidelines. So the CDC guidelines doesn't trump what's currently in place. It does, however, set structure for jurisdictions that doesn't have anything in place, because a lot of tenants were starting to get eviction notices. So this gives a little more room, a little more time for tenants to come up with the money. And so again, thank you for tuning in, James. Rent is still due. Late fees, penalties, all of that, it's still due, and so I'm just encouraging landlords and tenants to work together, because there are some organizations, there are some places that would assist tenants with paying their rent. And so certainly, if you're a tenant, know that the rent is still due. Know that just because you have this time through December 31st, you're not excused from paying your rent. You're still required to pay your rent. You just have a little more time to come up with the rent money. And so in the District of Columbia and in a lot of jurisdictions, landlords are required to offer tenants the opportunity to enter into a payment agreement. So please look up COVID laws for tenants in the particular jurisdiction that either you're renting property or maybe you're a tenant you're renting property in, because you need to know what the law says you must do. And again, everybody won't automatically qualify. So just because laws are temporarily in place, it doesn't cover everybody. Really, really hate to see people evicted because they believe that they were covered, just to find out that they were not covered. Because at the end of the day, somebody has to pay the bills. So if you're not paying the rent, that means the landlord may not be able to pay their mortgage. They may not be able to pay the utilities and everything that it takes to maintain rental property. Okay, so do your part as a tenant. See if there is some money or some financing or some funding available to assist you with rental payments. All right. And so I'm just encouraging landlords and tenants to work together, because at the end of the day, an educated rental community works a lot better. So one of the things that I do, I've shared this on my prior Facebook Lives, my broadcast, is this. I try to find funding and money that is available for my tenants, because I recognize it's a hardship. I recognize that this is a scary situation. And I recognize that we are navigating through uncharted territory. And this pandemic is not going to be over, from what I can see. And I'm not an expert on this, but from what I can see or tell, it's not going to be over anytime soon. I mean, you could agree or disagree, that's fine. But from what I can tell, looking at the news, looking at what's happening, looking at vaccines or whatever they're going to do to try to slow this disease down, I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. This is a global pandemic, guys. This COVID-19 is responsible for over 800,000 deaths globally. Okay, that's serious. And check this, just in the United States alone, there's been reported to have COVID-19. It's been identified to have over 5,500,000 cases of COVID-19. That's a lot. Okay, so this is not going away anytime soon, but there are laws that are put in place to try to help tenants to get on their feet, because the government, they recognize they have to do something. And if landlords are illegally evicting tenants and tenants get sick, so whether they become severely ill or they die, that landlord is going to be responsible. Their landlord will be held accountable. And that's the unfortunate part about it, because landlords, I recognize the financial hardship and the burden that it creates when tenants don't pay rent. I get it, because again, I believe that if you treat it like a business, it will pay you like a business. But some landlords don't have the backing. They don't have that financial cushion to fall back on if tenants don't pay rent beyond 2 or 3 months. Many landlords in a lot of places, they're doing good just to say that they have at least 2 months of reserve, when tenants don't pay rent. But you have the financial upkeep of the property. So there may be a mortgage, there may be taxes and insurance, utilities that may have to be paid on the property. those expenses don't go away, right? So tenants do have a lot of things working for them as it pertains to utilities. Utility companies, rather, they are encouraged to not disconnect service for non-payment of rent. So if you know you are delinquent, if you know you are behind, now is the time to reach out to see if there's some organization or a company, a church, if you will, that will assist with paying the utilities, that will assist with paying the rent. Listen, I've had tenants who owe well over $6,000 per tenant. Okay. I've been sending them resources. I've been providing information for them to go and get help. And guess what? They're getting the money. So that denotes to me that money is available. If you are a landlord and if you are not collecting your tenant rent payment, please do yourself a great service. Do some sort of maybe a Google search to see if there's some money available in the community that your tenant lives in, and pass that information on to your tenants, because that will help you a whole lot. It would take the stress, it would take the pressure off of the tenants. And so this is what I do. I provide this information for my tenants, but I also provide it to you, my viewers, and I want you to share this information with somebody that it could definitely help, because I promise you that, like I said again, this isn't going away anytime soon. And the eviction rate, it's going to be a tsunami of evictions that's coming. I promise you, evictions are coming. And this is the time that some landlords are going to capitalize off of getting rid of tenants who they may not have been the best tenant. They may have had some lease violations. This is going to be a time where we're going to see a lot of evictions happening. And that's the unfortunate part about it. So if you have comments, if you have questions, I will take them at this time, because I want to make sure that everybody is knowledgeable about the law, knowledgeable about the processes that are involved in order, again, for tenants to qualify, because not everybody's going to be covered. So find out if it applies to you. Find out if resources are available for you. And I'm certainly here to answer questions that you guys may have. Listen, this is what I do each and every Monday. I do a Facebook Live, which is for landlords, and it's also for tenants, because I just believe in helping people. And it hurts me to my heart to see people go through if they are not knowledgeable about what the law says they can or cannot do. And I'm sure that if this landlord may have watched this Facebook Live or watched the replay, he probably would have heard me tell him to find out what the law says versus this $200,000 fine. And I don't even know if this landlord is going to go to jail, but he possibly could, because there are laws in place that protects tenants. There's not really a whole lot in place right now for landlords, from what I can see, especially the smaller landlords. Let me say that. And so, guys, please find out what the law says in that particular jurisdiction that your rental property is in. And don't make this mistake. This was a tragic and costly mistake. But here's the thing, guys, that illegal and unfair landlord practices, they're punishable by law. Landlords are held to a high standard. And some landlords just don't know. Some people, they manage property. Some people own rental property that maybe they've never owned it before. Maybe they self-manage and they don't really know what they can or cannot do. So please know what the law says. And again, guys, this is what I do. And so if you have questions, if you have comments, whether I'm online, you can reach me on my website, KarissaSpann.com. You can drop your comments if you have any, or questions in a chat box. I will respond to them. Or if you want to just inbox me, I'm usually available. Even if I'm not online, I'll check my messages throughout the day, throughout the week, because I recognize that this is information that's helpful for people everywhere. And like I said, this landlord could have possibly prevented himself from going through this. And so certainly, if you want more information about lines and the temporary law that's in place, please visit that website, cdc.gov. Look up COVID, look up whether you're in DC, North Carolina, Florida, look up the website for that particular jurisdiction where that rental property is. Because if you do that, then you can maybe save yourself or get ahead of the curve, save yourself a lot of money, save yourself a lot of time, save yourself a lot of headaches, right? And a lot of sleepless nights. And I'm sure this landlord is regretting this sorely because this is not going away. This is just getting started. And so stay tuned because I'll be sharing more of these stories because this is just where we are right now. And so I thank you for tuning in. I thank you for watching the Facebook Live. I thank you for watching the replay. And again, this is what I do. Please make sure that you're tuning in each and every Monday because there are going to be updates. Things may change. So what I share today, it may be something new next week, but I promise to bring information that is applicable for the moment that we're currently all experiencing. And unfortunately, a lot of people are going to be impacted by this. And that's the sad part because everybody don't get to watch this Facebook Live or the replay as you are. So again, if you have someone in mind that you know that's renting, or whether they're a tenant, whether they're a landlord, please share this live with them. Let them get the information that you're hearing. And again, I'm excited because this is what I do every week. I am not just a property manager, but I'm a housing educator. This is what I do for a living. I enjoy making a difference. I enjoy sharing this information that will help people navigate through this challenging time. And so I'm here, I'm online. I have created a 6-week landlord master strategy course that I'm excited that will start next Wednesday. And I do have some viewers who have signed up. I'm excited to work with you. And if you think you're interested in working with me one-on-one, I promise you that it will definitely impact your life the greater. Or if you know someone who is a new landlord that needs information, or maybe they're a current landlord and they're trying to just get a push or grow or expand their business, please share this information with them. Thank you so much for that, lady. Please also subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm live on YouTube. I'm live on Facebook each and every Monday. And guys, again, I'm here if you have any questions. Hey, Jamal, thank you so much for tuning in, nephew. I know that you are well. Thank you guys for tuning in. And so my time is up. I thank you for yours. I hope that you'll share this Facebook Live or the replay. I hope that you'll join me next week right here on my Facebook page, Eastern Standard Time. Guys, please be safe. Share this information. Protect you. And so again, if you're a landlord, if you are a tenant, please share this. Please share this. Thank you. I hope to see you guys next week. Stay safe. Bye-bye.